To empower writers, writers will have to empower themselves.
How?
The rehearsals, which was really difficult. I did not like this man that much at that point of time. Very honestly.
I'd rather be a sellout with a full stomach than a artist who dies a frustrated pauper.
Boman, Avinash, it's so wonderful to have you here, and a massive congratulations on the Mehta boys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have to start with the obvious question. Avinash, for you, what is it like being directed by a fellow actor? You know, what changes with the kind of conversations you have in terms of shaping the performance and finding the character? And Boman, for you, what changes when you're directing yourself, both in terms of the logistics, but also in terms of, how do you know that the nuances of the performance are landing as you'd hope? What does that look like?
So first, one little addition to what you're saying is that I don't think that direction is good. The only aspect of a director is that of directing actors.
Of course, yeah.
There's so much more, right? It starts with a whole bunch of questions. It starts with a whole bunch of. It starts from casting. It starts from finalizing the script. It starts from the art direction, the DOP, the camera movement, the color palette. There's so many things. The pacing of the film.
I didn't want to diminish that. It just
No. But no. I'm just trying to say. So and then finally, it comes down to the performances and the actors and what pitch they're setting it up for. Luckily for me, because I was acting in it, I wanted to make sure that everything was on the table, cleared, polished, put there, so that we just put the ingredients in the big thing and stir it. So the prep really helped. The prep helped even in the with camera movement. We had fixed everything in with a little room for improvisation and improvement. Or if there's something that went wrong, we can always, turn around and do something else. And then the prep with the rehearsal process, which was very intense. We got into those moments and pushed ourselves into corners. We squeezed the gut a little bit here and there to get to those moments so that on the set we are not trying to figure out what the character is all about.
Yeah.
That happened because I was acting in it, so I just said as a precautionary measure, let's get everything clear. So that was a blessing in many ways. The only thing is when you're acting in it, you get a little more tired.
because you're doing everything.
Very exhausting. Very exhausting.
What about you? I imagine those conversations must be different when it is a director who also happens to be an actor.
So I have been fortunate to do 2 films. Madgaon Express, Kunal directed it. Here Sir is directing it. I think what I personally feel is different with actor directors is how they get actors. They kind of and this is mostly on set because when you're doing a take, somehow they know that this is where you can go. You don't need 8 takes. You don't need 15 variations of it. You know what is required, and that sense of okay जो है ना वो that comes very strongly when an actor is directing. But it's very difficult for me to explain to a director who's not an actor, sir. I don't know how to to explain this to another person कि हमें समझ में नहीं आता क्या. But there is something there which you just the actor director kind of gets it. It makes a job much more easier.
So has this spoiled you now for other directors who are now not actors?
In a way, he has definitely spoiled me because, in a way, we were talking about the hard work we did for the prep, the rehearsals, which was really difficult. I did not like this man that much at that point of time, very honestly, because he was really taking you there. It's a difficult film to do. You are taken to corners, and it's uncomfortable, right? Until I came on set, and set it was so smooth. Debutant director never felt like that. I saw him more as my co-actor. The director would pop up sometimes, but he had done his job during the rehearsals, during the prep work, and hence it became so much more easier. It was almost like 2 actors who were willing to play together without the fear of director and still having a direction from him. So it was a joy for me, very honestly.
That's wonderful. And Boman, I wanted to ask you, were there any specific quirks or traits or best practices that you stole from the various excellent directors you've worked with over the years? little sort of habits that you really brought to this set, to your first project as a director?
Definitely on the quirks.
The positive quirks.
Yeah, okay. No, I think you take from each and every director. Each and every director. There are some directors who take multiple takes, and that's their process, and you got to respect that. And I feel that maybe sometimes if you have to do multiple takes, just go ahead and do it. Don't be afraid. Sometimes you got to just do 2 takes. It doesn't matter if you got it. You got it. You know that you're going to push this guy and tire him for the next shot. You know, don't tire the actor. You got it. What do you be? Sometimes. So there are so many things I've learned from so many directors, including the ones that I've not worked with.
Okay.
You know, so of course my friend Raju and Vinod Chopra and Subhash Kapoor, on Jolly LB, the great Shyam Benegal, without a doubt, Dibakar Banerjee. I mean, with everyone, you just pick up something of what is to be said. How does one turn the knob this way, turn the knob this way,
Press the right buttons.
press the right buttons, and do it as if the actor should not feel that there's a fear of failure.
Feel safe.
I mean, if any director came and told me it's not happening, yaar. I mean, I get very, very upset. We're trying, we'll get there, but you can't say it's not happening. So, I've heard a director say to someone, "It's not happening, man. Right? Please don't say that.
That's the worst, yeah.
Don't say that." But more, I've been lucky. I've worked with the best. I've worked with the best in the country, and I feel I'm a sponge. I'd like to learn, whether I'm picking up their quirks or the positive quirks, as you call it, or for that matter, I'm picking up their work ethic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But just switching tracks to writing for a second, I wanted to ask both of you your relationship with screenwriting. You know, Boman, for you, aside from, of course, being co-writer on this film, what some people may not know is, you know, over the last few years, you've done hundreds of workshops through your program for free for aspiring screenwriters, and it's an amazing initiative. I wanted to ask both of you about this term that gets knocked around the industry a lot, which is, you know, empower writers. You know, it's something that people say for lip service to sound really cool. But I wanted to ask, what does empowering writers actually look like? What are the things people can actually do apart from saying it to sound a certain way?
Writers, to empower writers will have to empower themselves
How?
by honing their craft. So you can't say, I'm a writer and I write, so people should be respectful of me because I think I'm doing what is a job of a literate person. No, there's a craft, there's a science, there are techniques. You've got to polish those techniques. You can't say I need more money, but I'm still the same old writer. You've got to improve your work. There are some wonderful writers around. But my advice is, and this I can say, I say it in class because I say it to over 1,000 people, that first be worthy of that respect. That's harsh word that I'm using.
Yeah.
You've got to be worthy of that respect to say that how much time have you spent? You just started writing? Okay, likho yaar, dil se likho, dil se to sab log likhte. But there is a science.
Which is fair, but on the other side, it also feels like even a lot of the more talented established writers, it still feels like a struggle to get your name on the poster or get paid your due. So that's what I want to ask, as someone who's talked to so many of them, who's been around so many of them.
So, I mean this latest web series that's come out, Black Warrant, or maybe even a Patal Log on Prime, right?
Sudeep Sharma.
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's so well done. What are people talking about even in the reviews? The writing is very good. When it's good, and it will be acknowledged, and you will be paid well.
That sounds very hopeful. I will take it.
No question about it. And for my part, whatever little I know a reasonable amount, I share it and empower people. Do not go out there thinking that you're the cat's whiskers. Learn. There is a technique involved. Learn the technique and then don't use it. But there is an ABC. There are scales to music. Don't say I sing very well, so I don't need to learn my scales. Learn your scales, then scatter around if you want.
Yeah.
But it's important that you learn your scales. Do your saregama. Riyaz to karna hi padega.
Avinash, what about you? Like, I was just curious to get your perspective on, when people say that, what does good look like? What should people be doing to really champion writers?
See, first of all, because there are a lot of films in our country which are made without a script too. They have been made and people have celebrated it, glorified it. So when that happens, you feel like the scriptwriter is meaningless, right? So we also come with that sense of culture somewhere in our cinema where we have not valued them enough.
It's just packaging.
Absolutely. But then we have only valued stars. That's another problem. I think somewhere, first of all, we need to acknowledge that films are not made by stars. Films have genesis of it is in the writing, and then it eventually comes through in a film. Once that acknowledgement happens within and by the society and the audiences, I think it would be only fair for everyone to value the writer the most. So it starts with our own acknowledgement first, and as an audience, acknowledgement from their end, because we are all audiences, we are all consumers, we need to be better audiences, better consumers. I think that is one start. But if what we can do right now is to, like just Sir said, Black Warrant, writer credit, everyone sitting down, clap for them. It's a very small, maybe meaningless in the larger scale of things.
But give them their due.
It starts from there because he acknowledged it, right? And that is where it spreads from. Hoping, I'm again being hopeful that it would change because this is a conversation that has been happening since the 70s.
Unfortunately, yes.
Right. And I would stand up not only for the writer, I want to stand up for so many of them because it needs to change. Hoping that it does. What we can do right now is everyone that we are associated with, ask them to really give them the due credit, the value. Because actors have been even there. Well, he was saying we were all sitting here right now. Without that script, we wouldn't be here.
That is the film.
Can you make the film? We can't. So the genesis is there. You first salute that. And then, of course, if we do good work, please give us due credit. Due credit. That's where it is. Due credit.
You mentioned value. One thing I wanted to get both of your perspectives on is, Avinash, something you talk about a lot in interviews, which I find so interesting. You say there's a difference for any actor or artist between, correct me if I'm wrong, your profession and your career. You say your profession is where you earn a living and your career is doing meaningful work, building a meaningful body of work. I imagine for any artist, finding that balance must be very, very difficult, even for people later on in their careers. So I wanted to ask both of you, how difficult is it to find that balance? And what advice would you have for any artist or actor trying to find that balance? Because I imagine it must be very difficult sometimes.
I normally speak about, in my head, I've created 3 distinctions. I've said there's an artist, there's a person, and there's a profession. If there is a script, as an artist, I might be absolutely excited about it. But maybe as a person, I don't kind of connect to it. Professionally, it's not really something that's doing wonders to me. But there could be something that is... So what do I look forward to? I look forward to something that would give me an artistic joy. It would also suffice my person, and it also adds to my profession. That's the ideal setup.
But got to be rare to find all 3.
Right. So if I get that, that's the ideal. If not, I at least want 2. And that's been my filtration process. That's how I've made it for myself. It simplifies me. When I say artistic, it's kind of self-explanatory. Professional, yes. Something that will either ensure that I keep getting the kind of work that I'm looking for, or builds on where I am right now, adds on to where I am right now. Absolutely fantastic if that happens. So it's very clear in that sense which one to make that choice for. So then I'm like, 3 में से 2 मिल गए ना, I'll be cool. But if it's only serving 1, then I can let go of it. So it just made some... I mean, the filtration becomes slightly simpler for me in that sense.
Boman, what about you? How do you ever have that challenge of sort of one for us, one for them, one for earning a living, one for sort of the artist in you? How do you find that?
I think it's fantastic to earn a living.
Yeah, of course. And every artist should.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Please. I did a film. Well, my first film ever was a film called Let's Talk. It was shot on a handycam. I mean, and it was it's the definition of an experimental film.
This is Ram Madhwani.
Ram Madhwani's film. And people loved the film. Nobody actually quite saw it. Right? And the reviews that came out, oh, Boman Irani is like this, Boman Irani is like that. Don't pay too much attention to it, okay? People can say what they want. He is something and he's new. I hope he doesn't sell out. Whatever does that mean? And at that point of time, even after in my house, it was under reconstruction because it was falling apart, the building. I could see the skylight, right? You're telling me not to do a commercial film because as an artist I'm selling out? Yeah, okay, if that's what you think I did, I did.
You have it right too. That's your right. Yeah.
I'd rather be a sellout with a full stomach than a artist who dies a frustrated pauper. And then when you have an opportunity like that, when you've dealt with all your responsibilities, pick up the pen, take 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and do the one which is for the soul. And in between, there will be stuff that comes for the heart. And I've done quite a few along the way, right? They don't come to you every day,
Or you make your own.
or you make your own. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I needed to make this film my soul. For my soul, to please me, to please an audience that probably is wanting to watch a film like this. But please don't fool yourself to believe that if I'm doing a film which is a potboiler, a commercial film, what we call mindless entertainment, there is a guy who's pushing something who doesn't want to watch Let's Talk. He wants to watch that. And if I can bring a smile to his face, I want to tell those people who said, don't sell out, I sold out for that guy. Sorry.
That's very fair. And I have to say, I mean this sincerely, I think both of your work thus far is a very sort of sincere example of finding that balance, of really trying to...
The attempt has been.
Yeah. I also have to ask a bit of an industry question. This film seems incredibly sincere. It's coming out on a streaming platform. But it just feels like a very strange time for the industry. In terms of theatrical Hindi cinema, there's a lot of talk of crisis of confidence, crisis of creativity. It just feels like it's all about testosterone, spectacle, and that diversity is not what it used to be. And then there's streaming, which I'm always very protective of, where I feel like the finest Hindi language storytelling, writing, performances have all been there. Avinash, some of your finest work of the last few years has been on streaming. Boman, you did Masoom, which was excellent. And it feels like even streaming now, there's a sense of contraction. People say that people are playing it more safe. It's not the space it used to be a few years ago. So I wanted to ask both of you, what do you make of the current landscape as an audience? Boman, you're also now a producer. It just feels like an uncertain time. Does any of that concern you, or is it not that bad?
2 years ago, it was different, right?
Very.
Today is different. 2 years ago, it's going to change. 2 years next, it's going to change again. How's it going to change? Money will define. You better come up with the goods or make another potboiler. We don't know what's going to happen. But it doesn't matter as long as I get to make the film that I wanted to make and continue to do that. And every once in a while, I'll go and do a potboiler. But the landscape will keep changing.
But as an audience, you hope that both kinds of films come out, right?
There should be both kinds of films. It's just that, again, I'm going to come back to your first question. You cannot have a generation of a good audience unless you respect the audience. You cannot have a generation of good directors unless you have a generation of writers. It boils down to the writing, and I kid you not. It is the writers of the today that will have to work and get their hearts broken and rejected time and again. But they'll have to write good stuff. And then the landscape will change. It's an ever-changing landscape.
That's a hopeful perspective I will very much hold on to. Avinash, what about you? Does any aspect of what theatrical today is or what streaming feels like it no longer is, does that concern you at all in terms of...
I don't know what you're talking about. I had 2 hits last year in theaters. See, there is a shift, we all know. I think it's to do with a lot of things. The kind of content that we are consuming as audience. I also feel there is a slight disconnect with the audiences. Why? Because we are consuming content from the West. We are sitting here watching stuff from Korea, South Korea, wearing Korean pants, K-pop, Korean dramas. And you see that somewhere we have kind of gotten swayed by what's happening on the outside because it's become aspirational. We can say that probably the content that we have to offer isn't good enough. But have we really seen all the content that's come through? Have we given value to all the content? We end up talking about those 5, 7 films that we have that we see and talk about. That is not the industry, sir. You know, we we can talk about them because that keeps us going, but that's not the industry. So I don't think there's any dearth of ideas of films being made. It's just that the day we all evolve as audiences and consumers, also we as creators start connecting more to our people, where we start acknowledging our own culture, our own stories, and not being swayed by what is happening.
The trends.
I think, yeah, because we only follow trends, and it's the world that we are in. Everything is about 24 hours. There's no durability to anything. I think the kind of potential we hold because of the streaming services that we have, that we can reach to 200 countries now. We never had this distribution system earlier. It's now that we have it. So we'll take time to start
Take advantage of it.
advantage of it. You know, and there is still a problem because the streamers would want to reach out to the interiors of the country because they want to make business there. And the creators should be looking at expanding their markets and reaching out to taking local stories to the world. And that's the future I see, very honestly. To have relevance in this country, theatricals is going to be the most important thing. But using this opportunity of the streamers to create a cultural impact of the world is the future I see forward.
Well,
Again, I will very much take that optimism. I think we could all use some.
I mean, that's all we can carry on with.
Yeah. Boman, last word to you. This is a story, a journey that you've taken for many, many years as a writer, now turned director. We are on the eve of release. What is the biggest lesson you learned about directing through the journey of this film that you will hopefully take on to your future films as director?
I'm going to repeat myself.
Please do.
Take all the time in the world to write it correctly. You'll get all your cues from there. Number one. The other thing is, don't try to impress people. There was a draft where I was, using the camera in a particular way to say that,
Because it's cool.
because it's cool. And then I said, no, because I'm trying to impress the world with, look how he directed it. No, stick to the truth of what the theme and the truth of the characters, and you won't go wrong. You can't go wrong. So that's the biggest thing. Don't try and impress anyone. Just stick to the game plan. Talk to the characters. Make the characters talk to you. Ask them about their aches and pains. Ask them about their wounds. Ask them what their flaws are. Ask them to confess to you. They'll talk back to you. The characters will, and write those characters accordingly.
Love that.
Yeah.
On that note, I will say thank you to both of you. I really hope this film finds its audience, not just in India, but across the world. Because that's
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
I'll hold on to that thought.